This is the Building and Planning Committee and special meeting of the Board of Directors of the Kern Valley Healthcare District. It's Tuesday, October 25th. And we are called to order. Does anyone have any changes to today's agenda?
The agenda and the responding to grand jury, it's the process you've got on their process. We can also talk about what happened in the grand jury report.
As far as I'm concerned, you can talk anything that having to do with that grand jury report that you want to talk about.
Okay, okay.
All right.
No, nothing.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, comments on the agenda? Catherine, are you there, Catherine? She's probably working, huh?
Sometimes she's a couple minutes late, but
Okay,
there, oh yeah, there she
She's
is.
up there, just she stepped away from the mic.
on item C, public comment, any member of the public who would like to be heard on an issue that's under our jurisdiction but not on today's agenda is welcome to make a comment. Anybody interested? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go to approval of minutes from September 27th. Entertain a motion to approve those, unless people have comments, changes.
Don't have any comments or changes on motion as such, Ross?
Thank you.
All separate.
Okay, Fred and John. I guess since we have some online, we need to do a roll call vote. So John, your vote?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes,
Catherine?
You're on mute, Catherine.
It looks like yes, but you're muted. We can see your lips moving,
Thumbs up or thumbs
but
down.
we still can't hear you. I think- there
How about
we go.
now?
There you go.
Okay. What was the question? Just kidding. Yes.
Fred, your vote?
Yes.
Yes, our minutes are approved. Thank you. Okay, I'll turn it over to Bob for master plan, and there's going to be more discussion on the master plan item. Jean has questions on that. So when your presentation is done, there was still going to be some more discussion.
All right. Okay, so as I had put in the status of projects report, obviously we're working on the FEMA, daily. In fact, I gave Tim just before lunch, I gave him a document called the statement of work for his review before we send it off. We've just got a lot of documentation to put together. I've got the architect working on some stuff. I've got the structural engineer working on some documentation, all for the FEMA grant. I did ask the architect when they would have the drawings ready to resubmit, because we've got comments back, and then they're working on answering all the comments. They have a few more weeks of coordination to do, making sure that the electrical matches the structural, and matches the plumbing, matches the whatever. Anyway, so he says they are planning on resubmitting the last week of November, which is still about what, 4 weeks?
Yeah,
4 weeks away roughly. He said they should be resubmitted for the next round of plan review for the plans. Anyway, so that's mostly my report as far as the master plan. In that we're obviously in that segment of time of the redraw for corrections, get them resubmitted, go through. And each plan review, as I had shown you on that timeline, will get shorter, but they expect 2 more go rounds.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's on that timeline. But
Okay.
each one gets substantially shorter because the amount of questions or corrections will be a lot less each time.
if we paid the permit fee, would we get done faster?
It's already paid. And it's substantial too, for a project that size.
6 figures, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
115 or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Jean, you wanted to talk about funding and phasing. And so I'll turn it over to you to offer your comments.
Dave, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You know, it just basically looking at the total picture, there's something wrong with the picture. And you were going to be trying to put something together to show, when it was 19 million, you said, maybe we can do it. It's gonna be hard, but maybe we can get it done. And we might have to get other funding. Now it's almost 40 million, 37 million, and we know there's mistakes there in inflation. It's gonna be over 40 million. How are we
We're
gonna,
gonna be about 15 million short, so
50?
15, one.
Yeah, your microphone's still cutting out, Dave. I know.
We're gonna be about 15 million short. And so, you know, there's a couple different ways we can make up that difference.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
You're muted.
You're on mute, yeah.
Somebody muted you that didn't like my question.
We probably, you know, maybe have at the most 10 million of debt capacity, and the potential's maybe there for an extra 5 million in IGT. But at this stage, you know, I'd say, you know, it's certainly not a slam dunk that we're going to be able to complete this project just using our own funds.
So
There's as good a chance you get less IGT, and you're talking about 5 million more.
That's correct. There's a possibility of going either direction on it.
And I'm for the project. I don't have a problem. I want it, but I want us to fund the damn thing. I don't want us to get in the middle of it and say, hey, you
You
know,
can hit the off button on the side.
Or just to the side, but
somebody
Yeah,
else
well,
come do it. That's all. I just want us to
Well,
see a path.
but here's what we're going down two paths right now. What I have provided to Dave was a breakdown of the estimated costs of what we could complete without any additional funding that we don't have today, which gets us about halfway through. But also we're going after these FEMA dollars, and, you
I
know,
don't even want to hear, if you don't mind, I don't want to hear about those because it's pie in the sky.
yeah, well, if we get
But-
them.
It's
we're-
not likely to happen.
okay, but we're going down both roads, and I'm bringing it up because I'm putting all the work into it.
I know, but
Okay,
it doesn't,
and there is a chance that we could get it.
okay.
Now, if we get it, we have no issues.
What do you have it categorized as? What type of grant is it?
It is called a BRIC grant, and it's BRIC stands for building something, infrastructure, et cetera. And in this particular program with FEMA, they have awarded monies for seismic upgrades of buildings.
Okay. Ours is about 10% seismic upgrade. We know it. I mean, it's not a secret, right?
It's not 10%. The challenge
What
is,
percentage is it?
well, because it's not just the shear walls and the roof diaphragm. All of the equipment doesn't meet. So for instance, in a newer building where I was previous to this hospital, I had to upgrade a whole bunch of the equipment and all the anchorage of equipment to meet what's called the NPC3 ratings. So therefore I had to go in and I had to replace spring isolators and all sorts of things to seismically bring up the equipment to the next code level. Now, that being said, the equipment in this building is so old, it's not upgradable. So therefore, all the equipment becomes a seismic upgrade. All of the systems, the piping, everything cannot be brought up to current seismic. So it has to be replaced with current seismic approved equipment.
But that as we need it.
No, this is the things like heating and air conditioning, electrical panels, you know, all the systems, the water piping systems, all
So
have.
you
be
have to upgrade the
replaced.
old ones?
Yes, because they can't even be brought to code. And so,
And so we're required to bring it to code.
yes, so all of those systems, it's not just the shear walls and the roof diaphragm. It is all those systems are part of the seismic.
That's part of seismic upgrade, but the one that we're referring to that has to be done by 28 or whenever year it keeps changing. What's in that? it doesn't say you gotta upgrade everything. It just says emergency rooms, right?
No,
No,
that was a road that some people were attempting to go down. That we would only have to do ERs and surgeries, but it didn't fly.
that was a.
So it's dead in the water.
Okay, so the current one, if we submit it to FEMA, possibly we could call it what you're calling it.
Yes,
Okay,
it is called the Kern Valley Healthcare District Hospital Seismic Upgrade.
okay.
And we are not requesting the $36 million because when you plug it into their formulas, it doesn't pencil. Okay, because they have these built-in formulas in this document where you fill the information in. So we're going after the quoted price from Leland Saylor, which is $27,110,000. So that is the monies that we're requesting from FEMA, of which we have to pay 30% of. But if you take the difference between the 37
That
and the
gives us what we
27, that's
need.
10 million.
Yeah,
And you take a third of 27, so that's 9 million. That becomes $19 million that the hospital has to pay. And we currently have that in the bank.
So just for information, Mark, on the chat, BRIC stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that, I had heard at one point in the last couple of months that our match, because we're going a higher match,
Yes.
that increases our chance of actually getting that grant.
Yes. If we went with a minimum match, it lessens our chances substantially of getting it. But according to the consultants, if we go 30% match, it heightens our ability to get it substantially.
okay.
Because you're putting more down.
And I saw where we approved this project, whenever, the last thing I remember us approving was concept of it, and each stage would be approved.
Still the same.
Can you submit it is that the way you're submitting it?
Not to FEMA, I'm submitting the whole project because I need the whole 27 million.
Yeah.
I mean, all that's included in there in that application to FEMA are plans showing the work that we are going to do. But you know, how obviously with a BRIC grant, you have 4 years to complete the project. 3 years, 4 years,
4 years.
4 years. So, and that's going to be tight. But also in dealing with FEMA on previous go-arounds, if you get near the end of the project, let's just say you're getting near 4 years and you're going to run over 6 months. You simply write them a letter and you explain why we're going over, et cetera. And what they do is they just spread it out past the 4 years because, you know, they're not going to just stop because, you know, construction went a little slower. So the reality is yeah, it's a pie in the sky that we, you know, there's no guarantees we're going to get this, but we are working with a consultant who is a consultant to Cal OES who is helping us with every step. They're reviewing every one of my documents and they're sending it back saying, add this here, it'll make it much more approvable. Make your narrative have this in it and this in it to make sure that it fully explains everything the way they like to see it. So, I mean,
And they've got a history of getting projects,
Yeah.
numerous projects.
so I'm not saying there's a good chance we're going to get it, but there's this much chance. And if we get it, the finances have become a moot point.
Well, then we could squeak by. I mean,
Yeah,
Yes.
no, we're okay there.
we would
Yes,
be,
exactly.
we would be fine.
So I'm,
We
I
have to
am,
take that shot.
and
When will we know?
we don't know until
August of next year.
August of next year as to whether we're awarded, but we will not have started by then. Because one of the criteria is you cannot break ground on a project and get funded.
How much would it cost us to get somebody with a crystal ball?
Yeah, I know. I would like to find that
Sure, there's a
person.
few down in.
But the plan B is if we don't get the FEMA funding,
Absolutely.
then we have this broken into 2 pieces.
Yes,
We've got the part that we can fund
right.
and
But the same argument applies that Bob was suggesting on here. You know, the bottom line is we know we still have to make all these improvements. We have to do them anyway. You know, our hospital is beginning to fail, you know, with our water leaking and pipes breaking and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's an aspect of that we continue to do this. Fine. If we get down to the end 2030 and we still haven't done this, but we can go to HCI and say, listen, we've made all of this progress. This is where we're at right now. We've demonstrated that we are in the process of bringing this hospital into compliance. They're not going to close the hospital for that. They're going to give you more time to obviously continue to do that.
Because they started the work, and I know that firsthand because I was involved with the replacement hospital in Ukiah, California. And the construction was taking too long, and it was extending past the drop dead date that they had to be out of the original hospital because they had done no upgrades. It was still an SPC 1, NPC 1, and there was a drop dead date that they had to be out. Well, they couldn't make it because the construction went about 9 months too long because the contractor dragged their feet and lots of issues. So, but they simply laid it out with CDPH and with HCI and said, this is where we're at. And they just said, not a problem. They says, we will not close the hospital. You continue to function, even though you're past your due date. And then we know this, you know, you're 3/4 of the way there anyway. And so then once they completed the new hospital, they moved in, and then they completely closed down the original facility. So they're not hard nosed as long as you're making an effort.
Well, I even remember the year before COVID, the last ACHD conference we went to, it was Oshpod. It was called Oshpod back then, but the director of Oshpod was at that conference and said the same thing. He said, you know, this law is not going away. Every hospital has to do this, but as long as you're making effort, we won't hard nose you basically.
And just to give you an update, I had a long conversation yesterday with David Bocci, who's the senior VP for the hospital council. And we talked about this because, you know, one of the big issues right now has been because hospital association, excuse me, put a lot of weight into trying to get the standards changed, like you were alluding to originally. And that was to only have your ER and your OR, you know, basically meet the standards and so forth. And so the legislature came back to them and said, listen, you've tried this now 4 years in a row. He said, go find another plan. Basically, this isn't working, you know, and the unions, obviously, we're fighting this and so forth. And the legislature obviously was paying lots of attention to that and so forth. So they've got to go back and totally retool that. And we've got a conference call coming up next month where Carmela Coyle, the head of the California Hospital Association, is going to start addressing that. But the bottom line is, like I said, I was talking with Ken Keller, the CEO at Memorial, and I said, what is this thing when they pulled the rug out from underneath that change to the standards? What did that mean to you guys? He said, for us to comply with about $35 million if that had gone through. He says, without it, we're looking at our original plan of $400 million. And they haven't started, they have nothing started yet. And so same thing with Kern
They're
Medical.
so busy, they wouldn't have time to do it anyway, so it don't make no
But
difference.
last point, they're gonna shut Memorial Hospital down or the county hospital? No, they can't.
But
You know, the point is we've got to be in process to at least demonstrate we're trying to comply.
But what I don't want to see is the Tehachapi or Taft. Taft doesn't even have an emergency room,
I know,
Right.
and we don't want to be there.
right.
And so.
No, we wholeheartedly agree with that.
We don't want to get creative with the financing and everything that looks good and end up.
No. In all reality, I agree with you. I mean, Bob and I have been down this, we tried this once before with this funding through FEMA and stuff like that. We did a lot of work and got approved, it just didn't get funded. You know, I think this is probably a better likelihood that we could get funded than that last time.
Yes.
Still got some risks, obviously, because it depends upon how many other projects are in
Now, who's the
the.
one that makes the decision after you're approved?
My understanding is FEMA that makes this one.
This,
It's a little different.
my understanding is FEMA awards the money this go around. The last time we were approved, we were on the approved list. All of our work was not for naught. It was approved. The problem with that particular funding stream, because it was related to fire hazards and communities that had burned down, which, you know, we came close.
Right.
The monies were given to Cal OES and Cal OES dispersed the monies the way that they thought. And they called us and apologized that, yes, we were approved, but they ran out of money before they got to us.
Well,
So-
August of next year, they could be more favorable to rural hospitals.
Yes, and so, I mean, I've got my hopes up a little bit, but I,
didn't mean
you
to
know,
offend you,
I-
Russ, but
I also, I'm along with Dave that, you know, the likelihood of getting it is not high, but my hopes are pretty good because it's designed for what we're doing. More and more hospitals are coming into the limelight of needing, you know, funding for these seismic upgrades. And, you know, and so far, I mean, it's become really close because there's this whole formula put in. And we had, this is how nitpicky it is. If we put it in that the hospital that we're going to send the majority of people to is Bakersfield, because of the volume of people in Bakersfield and the volume of the hospitals, we didn't come up to a 0.76 on this particular formula rating, which means we couldn't even apply. But stop and think about it. If we have a seismic event, which direction are you likely to get out of here on?
East.
That way.
that one was
So
put for
we-
3 months.
So Tim is working on getting a letter of agreement with Ridgecrest that they will take our patients and if we had to evacuate. Because if I have that letter of agreement with Ridgecrest and I plug in the distance to Ridgecrest Hospital, even though it's 10 miles further than KMC, but because of the population, et cetera, it all of a sudden works. We are now, what are we at, Emily? 0.7?
You know.
It's more,
0.8 if we use Ridgecrest.
If we use Ridgecrest, we're at a 0.8.
Okay.
If we use Bakersfield.
But then once we are past the 0.76,
Five.
75, we're allowed this 3% rule. And when you plug in the 3% rule, it automatically takes us to a rating of 1.1, 1.2. And the project can only be funded if you're a 1 or a higher. So this is how close
Okay.
we have
It's all
come.
formula driven. You
And
can't
it's,
change-
and you can't, there's no adjustments. It is in stone in this formula.
yeah.
And so Emily and I have been playing with it now for 2 weeks, trying to make this adjustment and that adjustment. You know, and we have to justify what the cost of tearing this building down and rebuilding it if it fell down in an earthquake. So I got the architect working on some of that. So there's just a huge amount of documentation that goes into this. But if we can get all these ducks in a row and all the documents are good, this is a fundable project. I mean, it's not like it's a, you know, a cold day and whatever that we would get it. There is a chance.
There's actually a
Yeah,
chance, yeah.
Yes,
We're still walking on thin ice.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm trying,
You
that's
have
why
to-
I'm trying to
you have to
lose
make
weight
it
as fast as I can, Gene.
You know, but
Walking on thin ice.
like I said, in spite of that, like I said, you know, we've still got, we know we've got in the bank today. We know we're going to continue to add to that over time, you know, like I said, you know, what we hope to be able to put some more money into that here shortly. You know, and like I said, obviously, we know the IGT monies are coming. That's continued to be funded by the state and the feds and so forth. And so it just hasn't hit us yet. So we know between now and the next couple of years, obviously, there's going to be several million more that come down the pike. You know, it's not to say that we're going to have 100%, but we might get 90, 95% of the way there. But I'd rather go to the community. If we had to go to the community, I'd rather going for that little bit of money than trying to get the whole thing funded from them.
Yeah.
You know, and at least say, hey, listen, here's what we've done already. Look at all the improvements, because you'll see some of those improvements by that time.
Yeah, so see, but
You know, and then worst case scenario, if we have to go to an outside funding source, Dave's been, you know, reaching out for those, and there are opportunities there too. So I think, you know, again, there certainly is opportunities, but you know, like I said, I think we need to just try to keep this thing moving. But like I said, there's because of this opportunity to fund this whole thing through, you know, the FEMA and plus with the piece that we have, again, we've got to abide by that 1 year wait period there.
right. So what it really boils down to is I'm going to be working my tail off between now and the 1st of December, and Emily and everybody else I've got working on this, because we have to have all of our stuff in. Okay. And then it goes into this process of, you know, approvals, and then it's a wait and see. You know, and come next August when FEMA goes, okay, for the year 2022, we're going to award this list of people the monies that they have requested, you know, and if we get it, we can smile all the way to the bank. And if we don't get it, we're going to have to sit back and go, okay, now what do we, now where do we go?
We could make that 19 million if we were more profitable. If
I don't disagree with that
if the
statement.
skilled nursing was at capacity where it always was, and I don't know what really has caused it, but we're not. And the clinic is making money, and
We could also be in the financial situation as Ridgecrest is in, or Southern Inyo, and several other district hospitals that I'm personally aware of that are right at death's door. So the glass is always either half full or half empty.
You know, we used to be able to staff 12 CNAs during the day and 5 at night as well. So we cannot staff that anymore.
And we're working on it, of course.
We are.
all right, I've taken enough time. I think I
I agree.
Go on, and we.
The finance part of this thing scares the heck out of me. Because, you know, we're either going to be sitting good or we're going to be right back to a week.
But I think we've got a much better comfort level right now because we have a much better understanding of what we think it's really going to cost to
Yes.
do the job.
Yeah.
Before it was, who knows?
At least it's almost a known now.
Right, yeah. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, then Bob, we'll move on to item 2, which is the SPC 4D material testing.
yes, okay, so basically our design was approved, as I stated. And on Monday, I hit the send on the button, which submitted the plans to HCI to get our building permit to proceed with that little portion of work. And I did email the structural engineer, Ben, and asked, do you feel, because there could be some changes to the drawings in this last review of the quotes. Because what he did is he negotiated everything with the structural department. The structural department gave us a letter saying you're meeting all of our criteria. But now we actually have to submit the drawings to HCI for plan review, which will take a little bit of time here, but he said he didn't feel that there would be much in the way of changes, because what I asked him was, do you feel these plans that you have sent me are complete enough for me to get them out to bid? Because we had gotten a price from our testing laboratory to take the samples previously, but then HCI wasn't happy with the volume or the amounts exactly, so it all got renegotiated. So what I did want to discuss today is, do we feel that, okay, possibly to get the best pricing is that I should take these drawings and I should put them out to a bidding site and let multiple testing labs give us pricing if they so choose to. Because out of Bakersfield, you got Twining and you've got, you know, Soils Engineering, and you've got another firm, I can't remember the name right now, that in theory could all bid this project. To take these samples, they actually have to cut out sections of the concrete block wall and cut out sections of rebar, and they got to take samples out of the footings with corings, and they have to take them to a lab and they have to break them and verify the strengths. And then that is used by the structural engineer in his upgrade, you know, his whole seismic design. He has already basically done the design, but this will back up and verify that, you know, if it says number 4 rebar, that there is a number 4 rebar there and it does test to today's standards, kind of a thing. So, you know, I would like to just say, well, let's just have Soils Engineering amend their price that they gave us a year ago for these samples. But if the board feels like, or Scott feels like we should put it out to bid, I'm certainly okay with doing that and see if we can get multiple bids. I don't know what the cost will be. I forgot to look up what they had estimated the cost before it kind of like doubled in scope. But I want to say it was.
Is Scott here?
I have it in my office. But
See, I think we should go out to bid. I mean,
that's the way I feel anyway.
Yeah, let's get the
Yes.
competitiveness.
We'll get some
Get the best
competitiveness to
price.
the bidding instead of just saying, just give me a price.
Right.
Even though they are our testing lab of, that we
Right.
deal with all the time, I would rather that they keep their pencil sharp.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm perfectly okay with doing that.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Anybody feel differently about that?
Do we need a motion to send it out? to
Good,
bid?
yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we
Yes.
send that
Out to bid.
out to bid.
Yeah, the 4D drawings.
4D drawings.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Okay, John's here. And so his voice came across faster.
Sorry.
But yours is.
Well-
Catherine.
That surprises me. I'm usually pretty fast at that, but
But Catherine, what is your vote?
my vote is yes.
Fred?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
That's good. I'm yes. So
Okay,
please do that. Thank you, Bob.
we'll do it. We'll work on that later this week.
Okay, next one, the new admin building.
Okay, so, yeah. I've had several conversations with the architect. They had believed, I think I had put down there that they had told me that they were going to have them back first part of the week of October 24. Well, that's this week. So he contacted me yesterday and said that, and I'll have to take the blame for this because I did the initial design, okay? They took my designs, put them on paper, submitted them to the county. We did have to we had to make some changes between HR and the conference room, which moved the wall over, and the hallway to the restroom now exceeds 20 feet, which is not allowed by code.
Firewall problem or something?
Well, you can't even just firewall it because it's a code requirement that it could be lengthened if we fully sprinkler the building. Well, the cost of fully sprinkling the building is ridiculous. So what the architect recommended, and Tim and I discussed, and I was going to bring here, was that all we need to do is delete one restroom that's at the end of that hall. And it's not the ADA nice restroom that we're going to put in. And we don't fall under the criteria of how many restrooms the building needs. And we just delete the restroom and put one exit door at the end of the hallway and we're home free. So that's the way I recommend that we go. The architect just asked for one additional week to make all those changes before he resubmitted. So he would resubmit in about a week.
Yeah, because we looked at some other options about maybe closing off a door to the education room or taking the door out so we had an exit.
And making this long route to an exit way.
Now you had
through.
education doing classes that the rest of them could hear, and we just said, no,
Yeah,
let's just lose the rest.
It was the only other option, which was to exit through the education department with meetings going on in the meeting room, and that's not really a good plan. So, yeah, if you're all good with it,
Did you leave those drawings on my
I
desk?
think I left them on your desk.
Will it still work for staff?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of where the bathrooms are located?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because all of the restrooms are accessible through back hallways to all the departments in the building.
Okay.
So it doesn't impact anybody. HR will still have one restroom, very, very close proximity, the same one that the conference room will use. But if need be, and somebody's in that restroom, you just go down the education hall and over to the next restroom. So, yeah, so it works. And I just had completely missed that we had a 20-foot dead end corridor. Like 23 feet.
So we got more space now.
Well, we have more hallway, which doesn't do as much good. That's why I remember we removed one entire hallway to make the building be more
That's all
efficient.
done. We don't need a motion.
No, I don't think so. This is informational that we're just gonna have to
Have
take
to
that
do it.
restroom out. It's informational that the architect has requested one additional week to make those changes to
So
it.
by November 1st, that we'll be in there.
It should be back for back check.
No, I mean, we're not moving in by November 1st.
We can move you into the other end where we're not doing any remodeling.
Okay, right now, what, just roughly, April next year?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe.
You have an office available in your shop, Gene?
Actually, I do. And one of the things I want to talk about, since Bob is not, or Tim is not here, is, well, never mind, I'll talk about
Yeah.
the
Anyway, so that only update is that we'll be a week longer in getting the drawings back to the state, to the county building department.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay,
I just want to say that, Bob, if that's the only thing you've missed, we're doing good, so.
I try.
Considering all the stuff. So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I do occasionally make a mistake.
This is being recorded.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
admit it.
since it's being recorded, I have never made a mistake.
You never have.
I may get back to you.
That's okay. Yeah. I had marked that hallway on a drawing for Tim. All right.
okay, item 4, the emergency generator.
Okay, so when we last left it, we had talked about reducing the scope at this time to lessen the cost now and pick up some of that cost as part of the seismic project. And so I mentioned that we would have to get a price from the architect to redraw the plans. Well, it was more expensive than I was hoping, but I gave you that price on the status of projects that to redraw, to reduce the scope is $29,520 to redraw the plans and resubmit them to HCI. And that includes them to make corrections during that process of going back through the plan review process, because we'd have to go back through the plan review process with HCI, whereas right now we already have approved plans.
Right.
So, and then of course, then we had talked about that if we chose to go with reduced plan scope, we would rebid the whole project with both the full scope and the reduced scope. Now, if we choose today not to spend the money to do the downsizing, we will still go back out to bid because we declined all the other bids, all one. And my thought is this time, instead of just putting out to Kern Builders Exchange, is that we'll go with Dodge, which is a nationwide bidding room, plan room, that we actually did. I think we did the clinic remodel with Dodge as well as Kern Builders Exchange in both locations, which will then broaden the scope of people who will see the project and might want to bid on it. And then hopefully with a lot of the school projects kind of having wrapped up, maybe we'll get some more interest out of Bakersfield to bid this where they declined the last time. I don't know. We could still end up coming back with one bid.
So it basically, our decision to delay this and go out to bid and reduce the scope of the project just costs us about $30,000 with the hope that we can save $1 million to $1.5 million.
On the upfront first portion of the work, but we're still going to have to end up, and hopefully if we can get multiple bids, we can save a portion of that $1 million anyway.
Yeah.
Because it came in at 3, could it come in at 2.5 now that maybe the cost of copper has gone down and some things, even if we did the full scope? Or do we want to spend the $29,520 and take the time to draw plans, to have plans then to go back out to bid with 2 options? I know it's a tough one.
Well, let me ask a question too, because this 29,500 was for the cost of just that project.
Just the
because we
emergency
carved
generator.
that project out. So this is the cost to revise those plans, but
Those drawings.
if part of that work is to then push some of that work back onto the main building, are we going to have to go back and modify the plans for the main building to pick up that work?
Yes.
So, because there'll be some cost obviously for that too.
Yes, down the road.
Right.
Bob, the earlier discussion about us not being able to break ground until we find out next August whether the FEMA money is approved. Does that buy us time to not worry as much about any delays, like with having to go back to HCI with the new downsized approach on the generators?
It buys us plenty. I think it buys us enough. Well, see, that's only next August. And this generator project estimated to take, per the contractor, is estimated to take 6 months to complete. Now, that doesn't mean that the two couldn't run. Let's just say we hadn't finished the emergency generator project and we started the master project. They can run concurrently because one doesn't have to be completed before the other. Our original reason for carving out the emergency generator was back when we had that loan that Dave now said, David said that he is totally cleared that we don't need to spend those monies in that time frame. But when we were been told we had to spend those monies in a certain time frame, by carving that generator piece out, it would make sure that we got those monies spent. But that's a moot point now. So do we have time, Dave? Yes, we do.
And moving forward with the generator won't mess up our FEMA application?
No, because it's a separate project under a separate permit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. It's not, the generator is not even listed or even shown on the drawings that are going to FEMA.
Okay.
We need to get a committee of board members, whoever. When FEMA gets it, there's political influence. We need to use what we've got.
Absolutely.
Right now, we don't have any.
Who knows, Kevin?
Yeah, well, I know Kevin very, very, very well.
That's what it's gonna take.
Well, we should have used that last time, but meanwhile,
Well, like I said,
Well-
this was more of a state fund project last time, which
Yeah, we
is,
did, because I sat in on those meetings with the state assemblymen in Senator Grove, and
Right.
there really wasn't much they could do.
right,
but everything's gonna look different next August.
absolutely. Hopefully.
So,
Hopefully,
well, for us,
Right,
yes.
for the hospital.
Right. Anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. Do we want to spend the money to redraw, or do we want to just go back out to bid with the full project?
I think it's worth the investment
The full project.
to do the both.
Do both?
I think that's the prudent thing to do.
Get the plans redrawn to show that the shorter scope.
Yeah.
And then bid both of them.
Okay, I'm fine with either way.
That way we'll know.
Yeah.
Is that another motion?
That will need to be a
yeah.
motion, yes.
Okay, I'll make the motion to do the redraw plans and do what Bob needs done.
So I told the architect to hold off on giving me the official submittal until today's vote. And but tomorrow they can have me the quote, the actual
Right.
quote for a board member's Tim's signature.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Catherine?
We gave her a second.
John held off.
And
Holding off. Thank you, guys. What gentlemen?
and I apologize for stepping up and making the motion, but we need to move things sometimes. It sort of,
Yeah, we gotta make
Stand in
15
there.
minutes.
so I do it because I think the rest of us are thinking the same way, except for Fred. Fred's got a different way of thinking.
Ms. Hess, stick your hand straight out and swing it right, please.
Yeah, and Heidi, you got the details on this? You're good with it?
Yep.
Okay, because when we reread these in 6 months, and we got to make sure that we've agreed to pay this architect this money on this meeting date.
Who's the architect?
Or a Greenbow.
Greenbow. Yes.
Okay, so we need to vote.
Yes.
John,
You look at me.
John, your vote. Dean?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Now, why is it you always pick the yes votes first?
Those are the only ones that count.
I
As
didn't
long as
realize
it's a majority, that's all that counts.
Aren't they all yeses this time? Okay, the emergency generator number 1 failure.
Okay, so informationally, HCI asked that project be rolled into, because it was done under an emergency authority to proceed. So instead of trying to turn that into its own standalone project, they had us roll it into the emergency generator project.
Oh.
So that was simply a request that came from the architect to HCI, and it's in process. So
Okay.
it's informational that they've just asked us to roll that in.
Okay,
Okay.
probably makes their record keeping a little cleaner.
Yeah.
All right, train.
Okay. My never ending project. I email them and I call them usually twice a week, trying to get this resolved. And of course, I was on the phone with them for an hour this morning. That was to resolve another issue related with our heating boilers. So, but no, I'm hounding them weekly to try and get that one last alarm system functional. And they have not done so yet.
Do they? We've already paid them everything, right? And is that why?
Well, yeah, well, actually, there was a number of change orders that from the architect during the project that were not in the scope of the project that they have asked me for payment on. And I'm at a point where it'll be a cold day in hell that we pay that. So we owe them money. And they think they might get some money if they finally finish the project, but I'm not sure that I'm willing to even pay them those monies.
That was their architects.
Oh, I know.
It's those are our architects, so.
Understood. That's why I'm saying is I have,
Why would we
no,
pay for it?
I could have a clear conscience of saying, I'm not going to pay you the money that they're hoping to get, but I says, I'm not going to pay you till you get this thing working.
Yeah.
It's like $6,000. Okay. It's not big money.
All right. I'm sure it's not their highest priority.
No.
Should we change
but-
the?
But what's the issue with them getting this job completed?
There is an alarm system for refrigerant leaks that is supposed to put a trouble on our fire alarm system and set off bells in the chiller room if the leak gets up to the point of 130 parts per million. And then secondarily, if it hits like 550 parts per million of freon in the air of the room, it must shut the chillers down completely.
Correct, which is the way that it works at most grocery stores and freezer rooms, but go ahead.
Right, absolutely. Same thing. They have been unable to make it do the 2 steps. It just goes to the upper step and shuts everything down in alarms. It's not turning on the exhaust fan and giving us a trouble at the lower level. And so it's not wired right. And I could probably sit down with the manual and probably figure it out myself, but I paid them to do it.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
we paid them to get it done. So just have, as I like to say, shove it down their throat and get it done.
It's what I've been trying to do now for a year.
Okay,
And I will keep trying. I'm sorry.
what do they say? Why they're not coming back? Why they're not doing the job appropriately?
They lack manpower. They're really busy. They actually came out and worked on it. And we thought we had it working. And then we had the fire marshal here and we tested and it did not function at the
And
lower level. It didn't
how-
turn on the exhaust fan.
Bob, how long ago was that?
About 3 months ago.
So should we send like a certified letter or something to them? So we have something in writing that says that, you know, we've received your invoice, unable to not, or unwilling to pay at this time as the job was not completed as, you know, contracted or something? I mean, should we start something where it's certified in writing?
We certainly could do something certified in writing. I don't want to use they haven't even sent me an invoice on what they would hope to be paid for the architect's fees. That I have a handwritten note, believe it or not, sitting on my desk. It's not an actual invoice at this point. It was just asked if that might be an option, and I told them I don't know.
The other option is that we send them a notice that we're gonna go out and find a third party that can get it fixed, and we'll send them the bill for it.
Yeah, that would be, that would
Gotta
give
get
us
this project done.
That's more leverage than anything else.
Okay. Well, and then that's what I would recommend instead of it just continuing to go on, because we're not making any gains by what's happening.
Well, we've made some,
Not enough.
but not enough. Right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I have no problem of upping the pressure.
Well, the other key is we need this permit signed off.
Right.
Well, and that's, yes, we eventually do. But like the fire marshal told me when he came here and he tested and we did not pass the lower level of the exhaust fan. He said, I says, well, I'm concerned because I'm having trouble getting these guys to perform on this. And he says, well, he says, between you and me, he says, since I've been here today, he says, you now have a year to be in compliance. He said, we will not close the project for non-compliance until a year is up. So,
Okay, so we've already burnt 25% of that timeline.
yes, we have. And that's why I'm trying to put pressure on weekly.
Trying to type of
Again,
pressure.
maybe if we do something in writing, makes it more,
Yeah, well, I have done it in writing in that I have put an email up to the person who is in charge of the 4 western states of the US.
How about we take a step further? Let Scott put it.
Let me get involved and let me make some calls.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And stick it on hospital letterhead, under your signature.
Yeah, we can do that.
CC to our attorney.
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right.
Just screwing around.
Should we change the agenda item name on this from boiler chiller to train saga?
Yeah,
Okay, dietary water heater.
Do we need a motion for that?
no, I don't. Oh, for the name change, yes, probably so. Okay, dietary water heater. So all piping is complete. We passed the pressure test. And so we are completing the supports of the pipe and we're working on the flue going out the roof. And then we have to insulate the pipes and then we'll fill the system and chlorinate it and we should be ready for startup. So we're making good progress on that project.
But how much longer do you think that will take?
All said and done, probably about 2 months. Part of it's because I've got to arrange for the chlorination company to come up. I got to make sure we've passed the pressure test, so we know we have no leaks. And so now I need to bring the chlorination firm up. They need to chlorinate it, and that process takes about a week. But we have quite a few hours of insulating to do, and the flue pipes and all the braces of the flue pipes that have to be fabricated. So I would say, yeah, hopefully inside of 2 months. Well, because I occasionally keep pulling my guy that's working off it to take care of other emergent problems as well.
Questions, comments on this one? Okay, pharmacy HVAC.
Okay, so the only thing that's left on that is that the change order that was required right at the end is still an HCI review. So one of these days it'll kick out approved and then we'll just close the project.
Okay. And pharmacy curbside pickup.
Well, my portion is done. Tim, do you have an update on whether they're implementing?
Suda is working on that now. She just hired some additional folks. She's getting them trained, and once they're up and ready, her plan is to go ahead and start that. So it should be pretty soon now.
This was tied into the.
What she did tell me was that they've
implementation
actually done some. They've been kind of
Oh, have
testing.
they? All right.
Under
Yeah,
the-
she's just
under the
doing it.
table. Yeah.
Yes, and so they're trying to work out some of the, how the flow goes
Right.
before we publicly announce it. So
Right.
she's in process with that.
You said it was tied, you had a question, it was tied to something.
Their implementation of their new software.
Not this part. Yeah,
It's not?
that's the delivery,
Okay.
the home
All right.
delivery thing.
Okay, they can do this whenever they've got
Yes.
the procedures worked out.
Not
Correct.
not that it's feasible, but let's say they tore down the Bank of America building. And this-
Yeah, because I'm not sure what they're gonna do there as
Okay,
far
well,
as the visitor center.
I do, but I'm not gonna say what it is, but when they tear it down, that,
Drive up window.
yeah,
I
that would work perfect. for
thought
the-
you might be going down that road.
That would work perfect instead of going outside.
Well, when we get our transportation set up, people won't even have to leave their homes. We'll just deliver them their meds.
But would that be possible? What?
Absolutely, yes.
About it?
I do not know anything about the visitors center. But if anybody's got any contacts with the Army Corps of Engineers, I'm not sure exactly who's gonna do the demo.
Was that what they're putting in?
Yeah, that's gonna be the new Kern Valley Visitor Center. That's where the Bank of America building is.
Good site.
So, I mean, that they have announced, they've just,
Yeah.
they've I get the newsletters from Army Corps of Engineers, and they've talked about, they've been in negotiations to purchase it and, et cetera. And they were doing the environmental impact study and all that stuff. It's all in the works, but it moves very slowly through their processes.
My golfing partner says that it's going to be a bare bones minimum project.
They're probably running out of money.
It's not going to be a fancy visitor center like Mono Lake.
Yeah.
But would it be possible to use stuff like, I don't know anything about it.
Could we use that window if we could get it donated to us? We probably could.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm just saying.
because that would be awesome.
Yeah, because those are expensive.
Yeah, it'd be almost the same as a drive-through. Well, it would be a drive-through at that point.
Right.
Okay. So
Okay. Item F, looks like there's no invoices to review, so we'll go to item G. And this has to do with the grand jury report. And Gene, you wanted this, you want to talk about this?
could we go over the none just for a minute? On the review of the invoices?
Okay, yeah.
Then we have to be quiet for a minute. Because nothing's there, right?
A moment of silence.
I complain so much today, I don't have much energy. The process wasn't handled very good.
Agreed.
Tim,
I admitted that at the board meeting, and like I said, I went back and forth with them over what was in this report. They didn't put everything else I wanted in here. They didn't understand what I was telling them, and so forth. So what we got it back and so forth. And like I said, it unfortunately sat on my desk. It got covered up. No excuse. And like I said, I got to a point, like I said, where I got a reminder notice. This is how you need to respond to us. So I responded, and we got that sent out to them just to make sure that we were fine with that. If anybody has a comment or a question about how I responded to one of those things, I'd be happy to do that. If there's something you want me to change, I can send a revised response to them. But they're all recommendations.
there are recommendations, there's no, because the judge signed that, and it looks like maybe it meant we should do something.
No,
about-
it's all recommendations.
Okay.
There's nothing, there's nothing that we have to do. Even if we suggested, here's how we're going to respond to that, they can't hold it to us. They are under a requirement that they have to go out and periodically inspect every public agency in the county. And they've admitted they just flat out, there's so many of them in Kern County that they can't even do them. The last time they were here was 10 years ago. So the likelihood that we'll ever see them again, or that I'll ever see them again, is probably remote, or any of us for that matter. Well, you probably still. I stand corrected. But so it's
John could.
yeah. And so anyway, like I said, I think I spoke to them, they were happy with that and stuff like that. In essence, like I said, we pretty much agreed with what they were recommending. I think we're kind of, basically said, listen, I'm not going to commit to your time frame. I mean, they just pulled a date out of the air and said, by November 1st, you have to have this, you have to go hire a construction consultant or whatever. I said,
Well,
fine,
the
listen, we
benefit
agree
of
that we
that,
need
the
one.
benefit of that would be, he might be able to look at the total picture, that's his job,
Sure.
and say, hey, slow down or speed up, or go to the public and get some money first,
Yeah.
or work harder.
No question. And my point was, we'll do that. I said, our board wants that. I know we're going to do that. The point was not knowing how long this thing was going to sit in plan review. If it was going to be another year in plan review, I'm not going to go hire someone today with nothing to do, so we just decided this is fine. Once we have a little better understanding from the architects and from HCI as to when we think we might get a building permit, then we'll go out at least, 90 to 100 days before that and begin bringing somebody on board, and then once we have permits and stuff like that, obviously we've got to go through the bidding process and so forth to get a contractor in here and then a construction manager to help oversee the whole project. So yeah, and in essence, that's what I've responded to them. It's just like I said, it really was not,
they don't have the authority to suggest you must do this by a certain date. And that's really what I was trying to get at with
And we don't
saying
have
very
the
nicely.
authority not to inform the board as we're going along,
Yeah.
but
Well, the
it'll
board has
probably
to
never
decide
happen
this.
again
Yeah.
in my lifetime,
Yeah.
probably Ross's. So we,
One never knows these days.
uh,
Yeah, now that's like I said, it's, you know, before I responded, I actually went online and looked at how a number of the other public agencies responded to these things. And they were all like simplifying.
there's some things that I like
One
to see,
sentence long.
like you're talking about the increasing population. We're decreasing, not increasing.
Right,
And it's not aging, it's going down.
correct. Younger
And
people.
so some of the stuff in the report was not.
I agree. And that's what I tried to correct them on. And it's like I said, they went in one year. You got like 7 or 8 people, you know, are in there who are trying to get their comments in and, you know, show their level of
That's all I got to say on it.
expertise. So I appreciate that. So.
I thought the board might be more involved in it. And
Yeah,
as I looked at the letter, I thought, yeah, I wouldn't have changed anything. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you took care of it. And you know, if their recommendations had been more substantial or something that were of value to us,
Yeah.
then, you know, there might have been,
handled it differently.
yeah, there might have been a reason for the board to be involved, but as it was, they so missed the mark on so many things that it just seemed like there wasn't value in it from that
Well,
perspective.
like I said, it was a process that they have to go through.
Yeah.
Just to say they've been out and they've looked at a site or whatever, and they issued a report and this met their requirements. It got them done.
Check
and
the
pleased with
box.
With
Yeah.
the county board of supervisors and stuff like that. So that's what that was about.
Okay, any other questions, comments on this item? All right, then go to item H, Leho Building update.
Okay, I got a lease from Dr. Leho. I forwarded that on to Scott's, and as you can see, it's real detail. I've never seen such a long lease on a building. And so Scott went through and he took out, some of these paragraphs and stuff like this. Scott actually came up with an alternate format. And I've got a couple I want to look at as well. Dr. Leho's willing to work with us, whatever. This happens to be a copy of what he actually, what he told me was this was actually the lease that BFMC came up with for him.
Throw it in the garbage bin.
I know. It's just so onerous and stuff like this. So I'm going to get us a better lease. But, again, where he's at, like I said, he was $4,000 a month for the lease, but he wants triple net, which obviously triple net covers the
we pay all expenses.
yes,
taxes.
basically, yeah, taxes,
insurance.
insurance and maintenance, so which we kind of do in any of the other buildings anyway. So
Yeah, we do that on the apartments down here that, we do 100% of the maintenance.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but what's the extra, what would be the cost on?
That's what I got to find out.
4,000 square foot, and he's replaced the
Roof.
All the air
The air
conditioning
conditioning
units.
units are new.
And so there's probably not too much there. That could be a problem if they weren't new,
Yeah.
but
The building's in pretty good shape. And just as an update, BFMC came up this morning and they pulled all of their computer systems and everything that they wanted.
Yeah.
And then they brought up a company to haul stuff to the dump and they were going to empty their site. But
She didn't tell me a date when they were coming up.
Yeah.
She had me ask Bob for a lease of all the equipment that we
yeah,
wanted.
so that had happened today. And so I went over there with Greg and we marked a few things that we wanted to keep because they were just going to take them to the dump. But there were some very nice exam tables.
Absolutely.
At least 3 or 4 of them. 6. And then there was like 2 physical therapy type tables that were in excellent condition.
Good.
So we marked all that stuff to just have them leave it in the building.
Yeah. Some of the furniture was ours too, wasn't it? Were there desks and things like that?
No, that's only on our half.
Right. Okay.
But over on the other
Oh,
side.
this was, they just took the stuff.
Just on their side.
I got you.
Yes, this was all stuff on their side.
Got it.
Yes. So.
Some of those things were there, I think, when they leased the building.
Yes.
Originally, even on the stuff that was on our side, we didn't
Right.
put all that in.
Yeah, no, it was left over. Well, we were discussing the X-ray machine because
Right.
eventually that probably is going to need to come out if we're going to put Mamo in there or
Absolutely.
something. Because we'll have to work that out with Dr. Leho as far as the disposal costs and that sort of thing of.
I was going to suggest that you include that in the request for the lease.
That's a good,
Just to have it removed.
It's antiquated. equipment.
yeah, no, it is. It's
Yeah,
all
it's-
analog and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
so
nothing we could use. So if we could include that he would pay for removal of that equipment. that
I'm
would be
great with that. That's a great idea.
Or bring it up to date before we take it over.
It can't be, I don't
can't
think it
be
can be updated.
No, I don't mean that, we don't need our building, that it's,
Oh.
everything's working.
I was only talking the X-ray equipment.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
we have half the building right now. They've allowed us to use parts of the other side, periodically and stuff like that, because they really weren't up there.
Couple days a month.
Now, I'd like to talk about an alternative to that lease,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay? The building in Isabella, that's the thrift store. Do we know how many square feet's in that?
Well, the
4,000.
main shopping area is 4,500 square feet.
Okay, so the building itself is about 4,000.
It's a lot bigger than that.
Okay, how big is it?
It's not all on one level.
But it's on a couple of different levels and it's in the neighborhood of 6,000 square
Okay,
feet.
so even if,
But it's a kind of rough building.
I'd like to see, it used to be a showcase for boats and everything.
Right,
It was a
right.
nice building and it still is. It's, right now,
It's not a bad building.
if we took and split it in half, took the right half and kept it as a thrift store, which is not doing as good as it could or as bad as it could, and put a clinic in Isabella there and let our girl that's in this building here go there. What's her name? Lisa Wiley. Or use it just for a clinic, but
I'll let Greg respond.
Greg, if we took the right half and kept it like it is and all the fence and everything, and took fences away from the other side and had parking there and made it a little more attractive where they didn't even look like they were together. And had a 2,000 square foot building that we could use for including the doctors that would be needed to use this building.
Yeah, I'll let Greg respond too, but my own thoughts, I think at this point in time, one is we're having difficulty getting physicians to even fill out our existing clinic now.
Okay, well,
So I'm trying to find
If
what,
we could use it for what you're talking about using this for, it happened, it's not as close, but we own the building. It's a good building.
no question. But I think there's
They
some things that can be used for. I don't disagree with you, Gene. I really don't. I'll be honest with you. I really don't want to see us get rid of that building or have that building go someplace else. Because it's the
Well-
only medical space that we know in the valley here. And if something happens and somebody comes in there that puts in a business, that's going to take business away from our clinic or our
Right,
ER.
right. But
that
what's the
hurts.
odds of that since nobody can operate, nobody can get help, nobody can do anything?
Well, you get somebody that comes in with lots of money and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Dignity or somebody else.
Accelerated urgent care.
Yeah, whatever. And, I don't want to wave a big flag, come start a business there. And again, for our future growth, even for us, 5, 10 years from now, you really want this space around this building protected.
Greg, he asked you to answer
Yeah.
and I didn't hear you answer yet.
Yes, yeah.
So, my thoughts, Bob can talk about the architecture of the building, because if we were to make that into a clinic, there's some pretty intense rules that we have to follow. So there's that part. The other thing is, I was approached by, someone at one of the local school districts about, some potential partnership plans that they have a need, we have some needs. So we're talking about looking at if we can kind of share some of those needs and do some basically some partnering. So
Is that the wellness thing?
yeah.
You mean at the school?
So
No,
the school
probably
has
on the boulevard somewhere.
Well, so who would be paying for it?
Well, the school has a new grant that they've been approved for. It's a long-term grant where they're doing what's called this community-based school. where it encompasses a lot of partnerships, both direct partnerships and a lot of agreements that are, very tangible ones and some, kind of looser agreements like with faith-based organizations, basically using the schools as kind of a hub of the community to look for healthcare, mental health, spiritual wellness, lots of different things. So part of the requirement there is that they have a wellness center associated with that. So we're just barely starting to talk with the school about that.
There's a good chance they could fund the brick and mortar part.
Okay, well, and you're dealing with that, you would need a building. We could lease it cheap to them and let them help us build it. You know what I'm saying?
Build it out.
Bring it up to gate.
Yeah.
Bring it up to what we need, because a thrift store could do just as good with half as much space.
Steve and I just had a real basic meeting about that, and we're going to actually have a more formal meeting on December 2nd. So that'll be really exciting.
That'd be awesome for everybody, because we could share with them, and if they needed it for nothing after we're over, we would be more willing to accommodate them if they're having hard times. Right now, they're having great times. So, but thank you, Ray, for considering talking to them about that, because we could make it nice.
We're going to need to talk about, different, funding options project revenue generating projects over there. But one thing to think about, and the reason that I do agree with him that we should keep that building, is one large thing that we're thinking about is our mammography services. And if we took mammography, took it totally off campus into Lake Isabella, it really wouldn't be feasible, because we need to have it so the techs can go back and forth between the hospital and the population health building.
But for the school and what they're doing, they get half of that building, and that would give us upgrade at no cost to us.
Be a partnership.
Yeah, right.
Well, and one of the other things too, by having the building and having control of the building over here, even if there was something we decided we didn't.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying that there's something we decided that maybe we couldn't do or didn't want to do, but we could find somebody else that was willing to do that, that's complementary.
I'm
to
not
what
saying
we're
either
doing.
or.
We can sublease it to them.
I'm
or
not
whatever.
saying not do that.
Yeah, okay.
What I'm.
I thought that's
saying-
where you were headed, but
No,
I agree. I mean, we've got lots of other space that we can do
that
something.
space, if we upgrade it, would be
I mean,
awesome.
we own the lot across the street from there. I
Right,
mean,
we
you
got
could do
parking
something there
there.
with a temp building or metal building or something,
Right,
or
right.
we've got space down here next to the pharmacy that we own that land. And so forth. So there's lots of things that we can look
The
at.
thrift store might function better if it were half the size inside. They've still got all of the,
Yeah, they've got some organizational stuff that they're getting into. I mean, they're starting to do some of that work now,
okay.
yeah, we got lots to talk about.
It's amazing the volume of stuff that comes through.
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of stuff.
but you think it'll increase our income if we lease that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Do I need to make a motion that we accept it? Well,
The big
we
issue,
got a new lease
the
coming.
big issues for here is the 4,000 triple net. And that's
Okay.
fine. It's 3-year lease with an option to buy.
Tell them no triple net.
You know what?
Tell them no triple net.
I can
That's not what
try.
they had.
Yeah, they did. They did.
They had triple net.
Yeah.
So they replaced the chillers.
The FMC paid for those air conditioning units.
Oh, okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If he wants to sell it today, what's the sell price?
I believe that was valued, I do 500 something thousand.
Because we're
Bob,
talking about spending 150,000 over the next 3 years on triple net. What's the difference? We're already throwing away 30% of the cost.
Well, the issue was that we want to ultimately buy it. I mean, we want to control, we want to own the building. The bottom line, like I said, without putting the cash out right now because of trying to save money for the building project,
But
we could at least get started in there, get some revenue generated
the
and
taxes,
start having to pay for itself.
the
That was the whole
taxes
point.
and insurance, the taxes are probably about 6,000 or 7,000. The insurance is another
Gene, what I'm
4,000.
getting at though is we're talking about over a 3-year period, spending an extra 150 versus just writing the check.
Well, I mean, it's a
What are you
valid
gonna do?
point.
You're gonna spend 150 over the next 3 years, then turn around and still give them this 500 on top of it.
Well, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Well,
It is.
well, if Dave gets us in trouble and we can't afford to buy it, we're in trouble.
Doesn't matter. I'm selling your building and we bought it. It's irrelevant.
Okay, then see if you can negotiate the price for under 400,000. It's not a $550,000
I
building.
agree with you. I know it's appraised at that, but
Yeah,
you're looking at other properties up here.
who appraised
It's
it?
not.
I am
How long ago?
10 years ago. It was a while ago. Yeah, it was a long time
Well, we
ago.
obviously need to get a current
Well,
appraisal.
look at that building we got now, 10 years ago, it probably would have priced for $1 million.
Yeah.
That we
So,
paid
Well, but we
400.
don't have to lease it for 3 years either. If it's making good money and we've got programs in there in a year, we could buy it in a year. We don't have to wait the 3 years. Do we?
Oh, no, and he said that was fine. He said,
Yeah.
if you wanted to buy it sooner than 3 years, that's fine. We don't have to wait 3 years.
We need to establish
Yeah.
the price now.
Yeah.
Exactly. You need to get a current appraisal and work
Okay.
off.
Let me call him and I'll suggest that to him.
See and see. who-
Because I know last time you offered that we should pay for the appraisal, and I think it's fair. We can do that.
But see who he will accept his appraisal. They get pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And if we
Good
can.
commercial appraisals between 3 and 4.
When that property, if we buy that property and it becomes ours, don't the taxes go away?
Yeah,
It's tax exempt.
yeah, there won't be any taxes and that's
Yeah,
probably $8,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
that's true.
Now, the insurance will sort of go away. It'll be sort of cheaper.
Well, yeah.
It'll be
Well, it will fall under the blanket
Build
umbrella.
it into the-
$4,000 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
So-
And as a maintenance, and we're already paying Bob. So.
Right.
Yeah. So the big key is the selling price.
Okay.
And we could lease it for 6 months and then buy it. So,
Yeah.
right, Fred? I mean,
I
or
just think you
2
need to
months.
get a current appraisal, and if it's reasonable, we write the check and stop talking about these.
Okay. Let me,
Yeah, I agree.
he'll do that.
Agree
He'll do
100%.
he'll do that.
All right.
Dr. Leo live now.
Las Vegas.
Could
Henderson.
you-
Henderson.
And then could you get them to throw the lot in across the street? Because they're selling cheap. But
Which one,
we,
behind us?
yes. No,
Well, I'm
they,
sure he'd be willing to.
you know which one we're talking about.
Which one?
The
behind
one next door to where
The church.
the church, right next, in between the
That
church
big dirt lot
and
behind
the
us.
finance, and the finance office.
He owns
Is there
the depth of
in the
the
street?
street.
The finance, on Dogwood,
Okay.
on Dogwood.
Across there.
I think there's 3 parcels there, isn't there?
We don't have a monitor well on that.
I don't know if that's subdivided or not.
It's out on the street.
Okay.
Further up.
All right.
Now, that's a good question. You said, do we have a well on it? I wonder if we could get a permit to drill a damn well, as expensive as the water's getting.
But it's Kissick. Well, it's Kissick, isn't the water source up there still?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, that Kissick owns the water company here, but if we had that dirt lot, I mean, his point's valid. What would it cost to drill a well? The biggest challenge is that our water feeds are from that side.
or if we start our own, what, no, I don't know, start our own water company.
There you go.
For here? No, I'm sorry,
Revenue.
for here, then we could buy the water at wholesale from Kissick. It goes right through there.
Sell it to Squirrel Valley.
No, I'm talking about our water.
How
company.
about one challenge at a time?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm sure he would love to get rid of that property as well, so.
Wouldn't hurt to ask him if he'd throw it in.
Yeah,
I'll talk to him about, yeah, it's
Yeah.
unfinished property at this point in time, so
And then-
unimproved property.
Yeah, and nobody's gonna build there. Well, unless BFMC bought it or something like that.
No, they pulled out, so they're not
Right,
likely to do that
so-
either, so,
The chances of it being marketable is slim. He knows that.
right. Well, he sat on it for how
And
many?
if we don't buy that building, the chances it's not gonna sell.
Yeah. Well,
It'll be
I
empty.
thought when we went to buy it the last time, we thought that's the case too, and then he ended up leasing it to BFAC while we were waiting for Cal Mortgage to approve our
Yeah.
purchase.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's a good guy and he likes the hospital.
he does,
so,
yeah. So,
Dr. Leo.
Yeah,
Any more discussion on this item, anybody?
those are good.
okay.
I'm surprised, well, I won't even say it.
What's that?
Surprised Steve Sprang didn't buy it. Did I say that out loud?
Fred, did you have another comment? No? Catherine, anything?
One more reason I don't want to.
Okay.
I want it to.
All right, then we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Good.
Thank you.
We still got 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Do I have to go now?
Yeah, you have to go. Leave the premises.